Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Whitney Place. I am the Legislative Director at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. Today I have with me Geir Friso. He's the Division Director of the Plant Protection Division and will give an overview of Palmer Amaranth in Minnesota.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, and good morning. My name is Geir Friso. I'm the Director of the Plant Protection Division, and I just have a few brief slides just to go through just a very brief overview of Palmer Amaranth, and would be happy to take any questions afterwards. So this is a picture of Palmer Amaranth, and as you can see, it looks very similar to other pigweed species or tall water hemp. And this is a plant that's not native to the northern parts, but it is native to the southwestern U.S. and Mexico, and it has been moving northwards for a number of years. So we've been sort of expecting it at some time or another. It's an annual growth cycle. It can grow up to 6 to 8 feet. I've heard reports as tall as 10 feet. It's a prolific seed producer. It can produce up to 250,000 seeds per plant. It's notorious for having developed resistance to a number of herbicide classes, most notably glyphosate, which has been an important herbicide in agriculture. So far in Minnesota, we've been able to confirm 30 known sites in 2 counties. It's limited to about 175 acres. The regulatory status of this plant is we designated it as a prohibited eradicate noxious weed in 2014 because we did see this coming. In the end of 2016, the commissioner designated it as a prohibited seed and seed mixes, and there's a zero tolerance now for Palmer Amaranth in seed sold in Minnesota. And Minnesota is only one of 2 states that have this designation.
Dr. Friso?
Yes.
Just a couple of things. Number one, looking at the plant, picture of the plant that you had up there. Being a gardener, I know that you can go into garden seed catalogs and actually order amaranth for your flower garden. And I assume there's obviously some relationship between the 2 plants, but how close are they, if I might ask?
Sure, Mr. Chair, members. There are a number of amaranth species that are actually used in the horticultural field. There's some that are used for food sources. It's a very broad family or genus of plants. Distinguishing them apart is fairly easy when you have the full plant, as you can see here. Distinguishing the seeds, however, is much more difficult and typically requires genetic testing to do that.
In that regard, sir, you mentioned about Minnesota having zero tolerance, and maybe you're going to cover this yet. How easy is that to achieve in light of the seed itself?
Mr. Chair, members, there is we have very strong authority under the seed law. We do test seed. Because of this current situation, we have sent out a letter to all the seed vendors and labelers, putting them on notice that there will be increased scrutiny and oversight of looking for Palmer Amaranth. Because it is such a small seed, that does make it more challenging for some of the seed industry to make sure they get it out. Most seed vendors, though, do a very good job of providing clean seed. So the source of Palmer Amaranth, this is still, we're still doing an investigation, so I can't speak too much to the specifics of the situation. We do believe currently all the sites that we've identified are on on CRP land or Conservation Reserve Program, and this is part of what's called the CP42 program, and these are plantings that are intended for pollinator protection plantings. The CP42 program is administered by 2 federal agencies, FSA and NRCS, and part of the specifications for these plantings, they do have a requirement for a native seed origin, and typically those are within 200 miles that the seed needs to come from. I think I can mention that in this particular case, we believe that there was a violation. There was actually multiple violations in this particular case that resulted in this introduction. We believe there's a single source that was responsible for this introduction. Currently, we are trying to deal with the situation very aggressively. Typically, when you have a new weed infestation, it's very difficult to eradicate it. Success stories are not very common, but in this case, we have a very small acreage, and we think we have a chance to actually eradicate it. So in the fall, when we discovered these infestations, we have been doing some fall burns in order to get rid of the seeds. We've been working very closely with the extension weed scientist here, and Dr. Jeff Gonzalez is here today, and also with NRCS. For spring, we are planning to return to those sites, and we're working with the university to develop some management plans. And we hope to have some spring treatments in place as early as spring of 2017. And with that, I'll end with take any questions.
Time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for coming, and thanks for your insight. When you said that the seed was 0% for the seed mix, do you go back and notify then all the seed suppliers, or what's the protocol for that, so they make sure they're aware and on the lookout for this?
Mr. Chair, Senator, the designation of Palmer amaranth as a restricted or prohibited seed was just done in November of last year. So we immediately sent letters to all the permit holders within the state of Minnesota. We have also written news articles, and the department has a newsletter that goes out to a number of entities in the agricultural community, so they've all been put on notice. We've also been working very closely with our sister state agencies that may have plantings on their own or administer state lands, and they've been working very closely with us as well. So we hope the word is out there, and we have put the seed industry on notice that we will be doing increased sampling and oversight.
Senator Eakin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Frieso, I was just wondering, you said that it originated as native to the southern part of the United States. Just wondering if it's, as far as climate is concerned, if it's a plant that, is there a northern limit to how far it can go based on climate, or if climate change issue is having any impact on this?
Mr. Chair, Senator, I think there's a lot of factors involved. Climate may be one of those factors, but this is a plant that has shown a great deal of adaptability. It has male and female plants, and because of that allows for sort of a natural selection process to occur. And if you have a plant that's producing a half or a quarter million seeds, eventually you'll get a seed that's adapted to more northerly climates. And that's also what has assisted it to develop these resistance to various herbicide classes as well.
Mr. Frieso, in that regard, I hear varying reports, obviously some discussion regarding its the lack of ability for it to be affected by herbicides. Is there a point in the very early stage that certain herbicides work better than or isn't it even react at that point in time?
Mr. Chair, members, there are various variants, I guess, of this particular species. So We believe the one that variant that has arrived here in Minnesota remains susceptible to glyphosate. So that's of great benefit to us. There are other classes of herbicides that still are effective with Palmer amaranth. Typically, weeds are much more susceptible to herbicides when they're seedlings or very young stages versus a mature plant, and they tend to harden off and more difficult.
Any other questions, members? If not, thank you for your presentation, and we'll look forward to hearing from the Department of Ag sometime in the future. So, at this point in time, I would call on Bill Bond and Paul Trecca from the Minnesota Crop Production Retailers and the Minnesota Certified Crop Advisors Board. Welcome, gentlemen. Please state your name for the record when you begin your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Am I loud enough? Glad to be here. I'm representing the Minnesota Crop Production Retailers, which is a trade association of the crop inputs here in Minnesota. That'd be the fertilizer, pesticide, and seed industry. And as well, we administer the Minnesota Certified Crop Advisors, of which Paul, who's joining me, is a board member. So what I will do is, he is an agronomist and an expert, so I'm going to really lend my time to him just to say that we had a opportunity to get a briefing from the Minnesota Department of Agriculture at our January board meeting, and it really got our attention as to the seriousness of this infestation. And I'm glad that you're paying attention to it, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, because it could be a serious issue for us. And with that, I'll turn it to Paul. You go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Bill. My name is Paul Trecca. I'm a certified crop advisor. In addition, I'm a certified professional agronomist here in the state of Minnesota. I work for CHS, Inc., out of Grand Meadow, Minnesota, which is in Mower County. I've worked in the ag industry for 36 years, so I've had many years of experience working with ag, and also I work very closely with the producers as an advisor to them. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman and Senators, for having us, Bill and I, be present here to testify. I did hand out a handout here, and it talks a little bit about the Palmer amaranth. And some of the information is repeated from what the gentleman from the Minnesota Department of Ag stated. And again, you can see there may be a few discrepancies as far as the information. University of Georgia indicates that each plant can produce up to 460,000 seeds under competitive situations. And if you got a single plant out there, as much as 1 million plants. You can find 10 different sources of information, and 10 different sources are going to talk about the amount of seeds. So one of the important things is seeds can remain viable in the soil for up to 5 years. So, if you do control the tops of the plant or eliminate the plants, if you have any seed production and they fall, the seeds can remain viable. And as the gentleman mentioned, these plants are very highly variable in appearance, so identification becomes very difficult. Some information stated from Bob Hartzler at Iowa State University indicates that in Iowa currently they have 49 counties with Palmer amaranth in it. And Iowa has a total of 99 counties. So roughly 50% of the counties have Palmer amaranth already present. As far as Minnesota goes, Al-McKee and Winnebago counties, which are right next to the Minnesota border, have Palmer amaranth introduced into it. So the fact that we have it isolated in western Minnesota, we still have all along our border, our southern border, to deal with. And then you can see Clayton County, Chickasaw, Palo Alto, and Sioux counties are just one county between Minnesota and the next county. So it is a very serious problem. It will get here. The growers that I work with, they've accepted the fact that it will be here. They understand that they need tools to work to help to control it. They're very serious about their intentions on keeping it out. And as I state under implications to Minnesota agriculture, the National Ag Statistics reports 7.5 million acres of soybeans grown in Minnesota. If you use the 2015 50 bushel average for the state of Minnesota, let's just assume, and I know the amount of yield loss can vary wildly, but let's just assume 20% reduction or 10 bushels per acre. We're talking about 75 million bushels lost, or at our current new crop price, we're talking $700 billion in income loss to our growers. So that's a significant amount. Did I say it right?
700 million.
Million, all right, million. Okay, we got 700 million.
Still a lot of money.
Okay, I was on the Wheel of Fortune one day, so I got carried away. Okay, there are some tactics that we can use for control. You see the word IPM, which stands for Integrated Pest Management. That's been a term that's been around for years, where they look at multiple sources of tactics for control, for things from anywhere from crop rotation, deep tillage, that's one way to do it. However, now you increase the chances of erosion. No-till left on the seed, does no-till work in Minnesota? Cover crops is another tactic that they use for control of, that can use to reduce. Now, any one of these is not going to control it entirely. You have to use the combination. Cover crops in Minnesota. Now, in Minnesota, when you have 8 months of winter, it takes a little while for the cover crops to get established. So they're working on that, though. Hand weeding, monitoring field margins. Field margins are going to be very critical. And as I move down to the second from last bullet point, identification and early detection is going to be key. So basically, boots on the ground. This is where the CCAs, the Certified Crop Advisors, your ag retailers, and your growers have to be very skilled in identification. There are very unique, distinguishing characteristics of this plant that you can use, but you have to know what to look for. So again, people such as the Certified Crop Advisors fill that role. Scouting will be very key and critical to the helping of identifying this to determine, is this going to be a problem, and are we dealing with the right thing? Institutions such as the University of Minnesota have done a great job of talking about, and if you flip over to the back side, as far as the different herbicides, because herbicides are one method of integrated pest management in addition to all the other cultural activities. Things like layering herbicides, which means putting down a herbicide that's used to help control the seeds before they even emerge. There are many good herbicides out there that are useful. It does add to the cost of production for the producer, and then followed by a post product. They do stress again, and the Weed Science Society of America, in addition to Minnesota, Iowa State, and a lot of the surrounding universities, talk very highly about using multiple sites of action, which means selecting products that work against that weed in multiple ways, not just one method or source of product. Currently, some of our pre-emergent herbicides, followed by some of the post, or PPO, which is basically a burner type of herbicides, have been working well. On water hemp. Water hemp is a relative of the Palmer amaranth. Now, we currently in Minnesota have glyphosate-resistant common water hemp and in addition, giant ragweed. So they are glyphosate-resistant species. Those same techniques work to control this weed as well. But again, the question will be for how long? At what point will those techniques or those tactics wear out? There's the glufosinate or Liberty herbicides. And then also, we have the next one is what's called a synthetic auxin. Those are the new ones that are coming out onto the stage. One of them is Monsanto's XtendiMax. They do contain a product in there called dicamba. Dicamba is an old chemistry. It's been around since 1946, so it's been around a long time. Monsanto currently has developed the plants to be they're genetically modified where they have the dicamba resistance built right into it. The problem is the soybean itself, the seed is registered for Minnesota. However, the chemistry, whether it's the XtendiMax or the Ingenia, which are both dicamba products, have not received a Minnesota registration as of yet. There is a federal label out on these products, but there is some reason, and nobody seems to be able to come up with the answer, why is the XtendiMax and Ingenia being slow in getting the Minnesota registration? So, Mr. Chairman and Senators, that is one thing that would help in the control, because those same tactics would work in controlling the glyphosate-resistant common giant ragweed in addition to the water hemp. You see also on there is Enlist. Enlist is Dow's AgriSciences, their chemistry. It is more of a 2,4-D type product. It's been around. 2,4-D, again, has been around for years. Again, your soybean seed has to be grown to be resistant to the 2,4-D. They've been working on this for a number of years, and that might be a little bit further out. But the dicamba product, either in the XtendiMax or the Ingenia, is the Minnesota Department, somebody's holding it up, so in Minnesota. Lastly, we talk about stewardship. Some of these products do have baggage with them as far as drift and some of these things. There's been a tremendous pressure put into training the ag retailers to teach people the proper nozzles, the proper pressures, the proper ground speed, adjuvants, buffers, all these things. But those things can be dealt with. And again, one of the things, as when Roundup Ready crops first came out, there were a few mishaps. There were some few problems that happened. But now, as in Minnesota, I think roughly around 80 to 90% of the soybean seed is Roundup Ready, and roughly around 75 to 80% of the corn is Roundup Ready. And so those issues, as through education, have really minimized. So with that, Mr. Chairman and Senators, do you have any questions for Bill or either myself?
Senator Draheim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on that XtendiMax, who registers that? What's the process? What's the normal time length to have a chemical like that registered in Minnesota? And then who would be the one that registers that?
As far as I know, Mr. Chairman and Senators, the federal label has been granted. It's the state of Minnesota is the holdup right now. Now, who is that body that's doing that? I don't have that answer. Who exactly is that person or committee or department? But that is something that I've been informed that there is a holdup in. When we talk to the chemical reps, they say, any day now, it's going to be registered. But, here we're already coming up to February 1st, and growers are making their decisions on purchasing seed. And currently, our area is already roughly about 7% of the soybean seed sold is resistant to the XtendiMax. So growers are looking at this. Now, again, they can plant the soybean seed, and they don't have to spray the XtendiMax on there or anything like that. They can just use because it's resistant to glyphosate and some other products as well. So, but as the Palmer Amaranth, as the common water hemp, as they materialize, some of our tactics currently probably will no longer work or be less effective.
Ms. Place, are you able to share any information regarding approval of those chemicals at this point?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, unfortunately, I didn't bring any pesticide and fertilizer management
No, and
staff
that's-
along today.
I understand.
But I believe this came up in a committee hearing in the House, and we are working on the registration process, and I can get more information to the committee.
If you would, please. Thank you.
Thanks.
One other question that I have, and I failed to ask this before, but maybe you know, when the plants were discovered in the 2 counties in Minnesota, at what point in their development were they discovered and destroyed? Was it prior to seed development?
You're asking me, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, do you know?
All I received was, we got word through the popular press, through the Land magazine out of Mankato, and then a number of growers that planted some of these seeds, these native seeds, they all received letters from the Minnesota Department of Ag and a sheet showing for identification. They were all asked to monitor their fields for these weeds, that the potential was that it could be there in their fields currently, which basically their hearts went to the floor when they saw that.
Right. Mr. Frieso, do you know at what point in the plant development the plants were located in Minnesota at the time they were destroyed? If you would approach the table, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members, the initial infestations were brought to our attention by crop consultants, and this was actually fairly late in the year, so these were mature plants they had already seeded, so it was fairly easy to identify the plants as being Palmer, and that was Dr. Jeff Gonzalez from the university that provided that identification.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions? If not, thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation and information.
Thank you.
At this point, we have Joe Schmentek from the Minnesota Soybean Growers Association. Welcome, and please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Chair, members. My name is Joe Smentek. I'm the Director of Public Affairs for Minnesota Soybean. I'm an environmental attorney who is on staff working with both the Soybean Research Promotion Council, the Checkoff, and with the Soybean Growers Association. Through the Soybean Growers Association, we have about 4,000 members. We're the largest soybean growers association in the country. The Research Promotion Council collects checkoff from about 25,000 soybean farmers throughout the state of Minnesota. Minnesota is the 3rd largest soybean producing state in the nation. We produce about 365 to 380 million bushels of soybean every year. The value of that crop is usually around $3.2 billion. As was testified to earlier, Minnesota had about 7.6 million acres, and roughly the soybean industry in the state of Minnesota creates about 35,000 jobs in the state. Minnesota Soybean is very concerned about the finding Palmer amaranth in the state of Minnesota. As was discussed, the ability of this weed to adapt quickly, produce the amount of seeds that it produces, and its emergence period are very concerning to our growers. One of the things that was not really brought up in the earlier presentation is that emergence period. The emergence happens throughout the growing season, even into late September. New plants of this Palmer can be emerging. So you need to control weeds throughout the growing season rather than just relying on a typical emergence period, spraying something and it dies. After you spray, Palmer can continue to emerge. One of the problems we have with that is that Palmer can really wreak havoc on harvesting equipment. It can really gum up the works in our combines and can break. Actually, is in Iowa, we've had a couple of growers that have broken heads trying to combine this stuff. Water hump, also the relative of Palmer, will grow throughout the season, but presents very little challenges in harvest time. So with that emergence issue, we feel it's really problematic in that our farmers are going to have to be out there controlling this water, or controlling Palmer with more chemicals than they have in the past with the weeds that we had, unlike with Palmer. As discussed, the Palmer Amaranth can reduce soybean yields by up to 80%. Obviously, that'll be a huge impact to our growers. It can lead to an increased cost in weed management and cost to the farmer that through chemicals and just changes in their practice. As you heard, that there's one of the methods to control it is deep tilling. We've had more and more of our members going to a no-till or a conservation till type system and having to go back to a deep till. This is equipment that they've, for the most part abandoned. They would have to get that equipment to do that, and it really does open up their fields to erosions, other issues that they have been trying to avoid. As discussed in Iowa, this was found in 5 counties. Just, I believe, a year and a half ago, it was only in 5 counties. It's up to 49. Spreads very quickly, and it's very easy to spread, being a small seed. And we're very concerned about that in the state of Minnesota. We appreciate the efforts of the Minnesota Department of Agriculture in getting out there quickly to eradicate it. We support the funding that's in the governor's budget for their noxious weed program and their eradication programs. We also support the work being done by the University of Minnesota at their terrestrial invasive pest center. Minnesota Soybean is working with them on a few different issues, primarily with the buckthorn control in the state of Minnesota. Buckthorn is the overwintering host for soybean aphids. So if we can get rid of buckthorn, we hopefully can reduce the soybean aphid population in the state of Minnesota. Given our concerns with that other invasive species, buckthorn, and this being another invasive species to our state, we'd really like to see the legislature work to control this as much as possible. It is troubling to our organization that while noted as a noxious weed in 2014, the zero tolerance on the seed did not show up until 2 years later. We don't believe that having some type of requirement for Minnesota-only seed and conservation plantings is unreasonable. As stated earlier by the Department of Agriculture, the CRP land has a requirement to where that seed can be sourced, and we're very concerned that current efforts such as the buffer bill in Minnesota does not have a similar type of sourcing of the seed. And we're worried that having that buffer bill go into implementation this November and having that many acres planted that quickly, we're going to see we could possibly see a real increase in the Palmer Amaranth coming in. Without that type of protection, that we're doing everything possible to keep the Palmer Amaranth out, we just have trouble, facing our growers saying that we're not going to do anything about this. I'll just keep it short and sweet because most of the things were already testified to. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them if I can.
Mr. Smetek, regarding, there was an example given if we had a 20% loss in our soybean yields here in Minnesota. In the states where infestation has been serious, and what are the typical yield reductions that are being experienced by soybean farmers?
That, Mr. Chair and members, that's hard to answer because of the individual things that have been happening on those farms. So when we meet at national meetings and we talk to growers, I've had the chance to talk with growers in Indiana, Illinois, Iowa that all face these issues, and a lot of them talk about they haven't seen any yield loss because of the increased pest management they've done. So one farmer that I talked to just recently didn't have any yield drop off, but saw a 2 times increase in the amount of chemicals he was using and cost to get those chemicals out into his fields.
Thank you, Mr. Smetek, and appreciate your information.
Thank you.
Next, we'll call on Tom Peterson from the Minnesota Farmers Union. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, my name is Tom Peterson. I represent the Minnesota Farmers Union, and I appreciate you having the hearing today. This is one of the top issues. We were kind of surprised. We have a county convention process in the fall and could see this rise to the high level as more people, especially that in Lyon, Yellow Medicine, Lincoln County, those folks are really concerned about this. And then also in southern Minnesota, you've already heard the Iowa, the 49 to 9 99. So it spread 10 times just last year in Iowa. So hoping that we can stay on top of it, and good to hear some of the things we're working on. We wanted to just share a couple of things or a couple ideas that we would like the legislators to consider. One is to support the governor has a $300,000 request in his budget. That's new money that is to fund needed resources at MDA to continue oversight and enforcement of the Minnesota noxious weed law. And so we would support that and hope that goes forward. We also support legislation. We had a bill last year, and it was introduced in the House this week, and I think one of you has the jackets for the Senate, and that is also for $500,000 per year, and that is for the noxious weed grant program. That's a little different. That's to MDA to make grants to local governments, as I understand it. And I think that would be really helpful, because your local governments help enforce this and are going to be working on that. So getting some money out to them, I think, would be helpful. And I urge you to really consider and look at that. I know this isn't the Finance Committee, but many of you are on the Finance Committee and looking at options. But remember the local government component in this. And so I think that's important. Also, as Mr. Smentek mentioned, we also support the invasive terrestrial plant and pest center at the University of Minnesota and the work that they're doing there, and continued funding for that. We also are interested in looking at the Minnesota-only seed provision, and if that's something that we should be doable. We're kind of running that through some of our members right now that sell seed and work through that. And then finally, we are getting questions about the buffer. As you know, people do need to have the 50-foot buffer put in place this fall, and that on the Palmer Amaranth, all of these were conservation plantings, as I understand it. And so there is some question, especially where people are starting to think about it. A call yesterday from a farmer who was wondering what seed to plant in their buffer, because they don't want to do a CRP contract right now, and they don't want to hay it, but they do want to put some native seed down. And so having assurances for our farmers that are going to be planting those buffers this fall or this spring. Some are going to do it this spring, some are going to wait till fall, I think is an important piece. So with that, the only other thing I'd mention that I think it's good for legislators to know that Minnesota also has a noxious weed task force that farm groups sit on, and environmental groups, local governments, counties, townships, the department, and they do good work as well. And so they have a lot of good information. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
For Mr. Peterson. If not, thank you, Tom. And at this point, we have Chris Cohen from the Pesticide Action Network. Welcome to the committee, and please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Chris Cowan, and I'm a lobbyist with the Pesticide Action Network. And we just wanted to speak today. I've had a chance to talk to many of you and have appointments set up with, hopefully with the rest of you, to talk about issues that are of concern for us. And what we've been talking to folks about is the negative impacts that have been for honeybees and pollinators. And we've had a lot of good conversations with legislators today about bills that are coming up. And the tie today is that there's three things that are really negatively impacting pollinators, and that would be varroa mites, pesticide use, and a lack of foraging areas. And in the discussion about Palmer Amaranth, there's that foraging areas have come up. So just want to say today that just like a lot of folks, we're concerned about Palmer Amaranth, like many Minnesotans, especially farmers. And we support efforts to make sure that any seeds planted in the state for pollinator habitat or any other purpose are carefully verified and regulated. And it's my understanding that Minnesota used to have a law that required that habitat seed mixes come from within the state. And whether through law or regulation, Minnesota should consider reinstating this practice to help prevent seed contaminated with invasive species from entering our state. We need habitat restoration for pollinators and native prairies, and we need to do it in a way that works for everyone. I thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Cohen at this point? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that cares to address the committee regarding this issue? Yes. Please come to the testifiers table and identify yourselves for the record. Welcome.
Mr. Chair, members, Angie Becker-Kadelka, Assistant Director with the Board of Water and Soil Resources.
Mr. Chair, members, Dan Shaw with the Board of Water and Soil Resources.
And Mr. Chair, there were a few questions that came up in regards to the buffer law, and so we wanted to just be able to provide any additional information that may be useful to the committee.
Please do.
So with the topic of Bowser-funded projects, we do have guidelines that require local seed sources for any of our projects. That'll be one of the key pieces for making sure that seed isn't coming from longer distances and becoming established. We're also working on outreach with a wide range of conservation partners, working closely with MDA as well. We've been having a lot of meetings, discussions with them about seed that may be used for Bowser-funded projects or for the buffer law in general. For the buffer plantings, landowners will have a lot of different options with planting. They may work with a Bowser program or a federal program, but they may plant alfalfa, brome grass. There could be other options that would be planted as far as buffer plantings. These other species or seed that may be planted, MDA's role will be important, the testing that they'll be doing to make sure that there's not Palmer amaranth in the seed that's being used for a buffer planting. And again, I think the partnership between conservation partners, weed inspectors, the university, MDA agencies, and landowners are all going to be key to making sure that we're doing sufficient outreach, making sure that there's enough monitoring and inspection happening to make sure that there's not Palmer amaranth being introduced through these buffer plantings.
If I might ask one question, recognizing that for those individuals who choose to enroll buffer strips in CRP acres, CRP has definite rules as it relates to plantings, as it relates to how you treat the plantings afterwards. Are they willing to grant special conditions when you have an infestation that allows practices to be used that are typically not allowed in CRP acres?
Mr. Chair, committee members, CRP does have a 200-mile maximum range for seed, so that's one of their practices. MDA recently met with NRCS and FSA to discuss Palmer amaranth and the inspections that will be done on sites where CRP will be planted. And so that will be one part of the process, is that there will be inspections being done on acres where CRP will be planted. They're also part of our discussions with additional outreach, inspections, and so they are part of the team that's working on this.
Okay. Senator Draheim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the two cases that were found in Minnesota were on CRP ground where they were supposed to buy seed within the 200 miles, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so how are we going to police that differently from a year ago till today?
And Mr. Chair, members, that might be a question that the Department of Agriculture is better qualified to answer.
Mr. Friesel.
Mr. Chair, could I ask repeat the question, please?
No problem. I would just, if the two cases or the two counties in that 175-acre area, if that seed came or was supposed to be CRP ground where it was supposed to be sourced within the 200 miles that's required, what are we going to do different from last year to this year, or what's planned to try to stop that from happening again?
Sure. Mr. Chair, Senator, first off, I want to point out that this particular situation, we believe there was a clear violation, that the seed came from sources that was mislabeled. It was not from within those restrictions. what we will be doing different, as I mentioned earlier, is we will have increased scrutiny and focus on seed mixes. The other thing that's changed is prior to probably about just a few weeks ago, we did not have a molecular test available to distinguish Palmer amaranth from other amaranth species. So having that test available now, California Department of Agriculture has developed that test. They've made it available to us. That's a huge, important tool in our tool chest to deal with Palmer amaranth. So I think we will be, because of that test, we'll be in much better position to detect Palmer amaranth in seed mixes.
Senator Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick follow-up. So you're comfortable, because people are going to start planting, I think, this spring, which is just a couple months away. So you can test this seed before they plant this spring?
Mr. Chair, Senator, yes. In fact, our seed sampling staff, they're already starting work right now. The seed is starting to show up in warehouses, so we are already addressing it. As I say, we will be doing extra sampling of these sort of native pollinator sampling or seed blends that are available.
Thank you, Mr. Frizo. Any other questions on the part of the committee? Anyone else in the audience that cares to address the committee? Thank you, all testifiers today, for your information. We look forward to the presentation from the department upon completion of their report. And if there's nothing else, I just would remind the committee that come Thursday, we will be having a joint meeting with the finance and be doing a tour of the department laboratory. So at this point, if there is nothing else, we will stand adjourned. Thank you.